Happy hour!
Yay!
Hey, there's decidedly
The
more excitement.
happiest of hours.
There's decidedly more excitement from the three of us after I say happy hour than when we intro our streams and we're about to play D&D. Hey, excitement. But
Mhm.
anyway, welcome in, people. It is another edition of Happy Hour where we bitch and complain about our lives for 15 minutes, give or take, and then maybe we actually talk about something that y'all are interested in.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, maybe we'll see.
yeah, maybe. Rook,
Indeed.
what's the lawn date? We that should be our first segment, our
The
first
ongoing
curiosity.
saga.
Length of the lawn.
The lawn's in good shape this week. No issues with the lawn for once.
Oh. Good job. Good job. Was there a goat involved?
There was not.
That's disappointing. We should make sure there's a goat involved for the future, even if it's like a goat lawn ornament. I'm gonna see if we can find that and send one to you. That'd be great. I'd love to see that. Not interested. Rook's like, come on, move along. Next topic.
No,
Interesting to
move
say.
along. That's it. I was just turning. I had to turn the Discord stuff on because we had.
Yeah.
I went in there last week. Remember?
Oh, right. Yep. Get that Discord stuff right down there. Our Discord, where we will have pictures of the lawn ornament once it finally gets installed.
Go to the Discord and demand it, and we'll make it happen.
Yeah. One person demands it. It's all I need, and I will make this happen. It's you. It could be you.
I could be a lawn ornament.
Sometimes
Someone could be a lawn ornament.
Yeah. Wild shape. And that's
Interesting.
What's going on with Violet?
Oh gosh, not much. Just work, it's just been pretty typical work. I'm so excited that summer is almost over. I feel like I've talked about this before, but this is all I'm going to think about until summer is over. But we've started to get some cool days where I am. It's still a little up and down, but we've gotten some cool days that are like, oh wow, I can envision the fall weather coming, and I'm really excited about it.
So season ranking, fall, obvious, clear number one.
Yes.
Despite the deluge of pumpkinness and pumpkin spice.
No problem with that. Yeah.
Fall still number one. Weather, obviously a big factor.
Yes.
Lack of pollen is a huge factor, right?
Yes, spring is nice, but that's probably the biggest drawback in spring. Is like allergy stuff is the worst in spring. But fall is it. Fall is the best season across the board. My birthday is also in fall, so that helps. But everything about fall is great.
So are we going? Fall starts when the weather changes. Fall starts at the equinox. Fall starts after Labor Day. What's our marker for fall?
I mean, I like to consider it starting with September just because that's the earliest I'm allowed to consider fall.
Okay, fair.
But in my soul, it's with the weather, though. It's when the weather shifts.
Fair. Well, that could be so. Then it could be different in different places, right? It's probably going to be a little later here in Atlanta than some of those places up north. But I like to think beginning of September, Labor Day is usually the marker for me. And sometimes my birthday being at the beginning of September, sometimes my birthday hits before fall, and sometimes it's a summer birthday. And sometimes, like this year, it's almost a whole week into fall. So
yeah, I'm late October, so I'm well into fall for my birthday.
Yeah, that's well into spooky season at that point in time.
Oh yeah, it's just my birthday is just a few days before Halloween, actually, so it's pretty perfect.
What about you, Rook? Where do you weigh in on season rankings, and when does fall start? Autumn.
Fall starts when it stops being balls hot outside. That's when fall starts. When balls hot goes away.
Yeah, that may be like another couple months for me here, but fair enough. But is that number one? Is that a consensus? Do we have a
The
unanimous?
weather is definitely the most defining factor.
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure. When you can wear like at least a long sleeve shirt, if not a sweater outside without dying, that's great.
Hope
At
not
least like
dying.
a flannel or something,
No.
outside and, be comfortable. That's ideal.
Wait. There's a big difference there between wearing something that has long sleeves and a flannel, right? There's a
Yeah. Well,
big
I
temperature
mean, I
difference there.
guess so. I don't think it's a huge difference, but
Oh, I mean, I have plenty of long sleeve T-shirts. I have plenty of things that cover that are not flannel and insulating and going to rise by temperature. Now, don't get me wrong. It's Dragon Con week, so I will be wearing mascot costumes
oh,
for
jeez.
several hours at a time in like
I don't know
96-degree heat. And
It's a
so I
nightmare, a literal
certainly hope
nightmare.
certainly hope that the long sleeves do not cause my premature demise. However, if that is to happen, if it is to happen, I will have been warned on the internet right here live for everybody to see.
Yes.
They will be able to point back to it and say, "Hey, told you, you wear long sleeves, you're gonna die.
You're gonna literally die."
So, yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. I'm taking risks. I'm a risk taker. That's
Okay.
I'm a bad boy like that. Fly in the face of predictions of my own death.
All right. Well, we'll see how it goes for you.
We will. We will know in just over a day. I mean, it starts. Dragon Con is about a week-long thing. I check into the hotel tomorrow. Most people get there on Wednesday. First parties are on Wednesday. Badge pickup is Thursday morning. So we'll be wearing costumes and all that, hanging around Wednesday night and partying in the air-conditioned hotels and everything like that. With badge pickup, though, that's where you start outside having to wait in a line for a little bit, however long that may be. And I will have on a full tracksuit at that point in time, which will have long sleeves. It's not flannel. It is not a flannel tracksuit.
Oh, well, good, because you would die.
I would die. But that's what I'm saying. There are long sleeves outside.
I guess. Well, for maybe it's just me personally. I do not tolerate heat well, so any kind of like long sleeves or anything too covered in hot weather, and I'm done for. Like, it's not okay.
It is not. I'm a sweater. I do sweat.
Mhm.
I need to hydrate. I didn't do that enough as a child, and I overheated a lot. But I learned later on, relatively early in life, late teens, early 20s, that I needed like 8 gallons of water a day to go outside and run around, so I didn't die. And you know what? I haven't died yet. So
Yeah, apparently. So I guess it's working for you.
But yeah, no, it'll be interesting. I'm excited about this year's badge pickup. We are doing a takeoff of the Dunkin' Donuts tracksuits from the Super Bowl commercial, so that's exciting. There will be many pictures of that, I'm sure. But I was just thinking back. It's an interesting tradition that we do for the badge pickup costume. Because I mean, you can wear it other times and all that, but the concept is you wear the costume specifically for picking up your badges and standing in line in that particular event. And that originated, I want to say 2017, when a hotel you all here are familiar with, and if anybody from Dragon Con is here, the Cortland Grand used to be known as the Sheraton.
Very nice hotel.
It's a very nice hotel. At that point in time, it was known as the Sheraton. And early on that summer, they had a Legionnaires outbreak at the hotel. And the DragonCon community was all in a kerfuffle. Oh my God, is it going to be ready in time? Are they going to move badge pickup? Are we going to have to move our reservations? We're not going to stay. They got it cleaned up. They did what they had to do. This is Sheraton. This is a big company. They got the hotel cleaned up, eradicated. There were no further instances of Legionnaires. Nobody that went there got Legionnaires during DragonCon. However, somebody had the bright idea to do because the only reason my group goes to the Sheraton is badge pickup, right? So we had the bright idea to take the Sheraton logo and mix it with like a Biohazard logo and make the Sheraton a Biohazard cleanup crew into a logo, and then not the full hazmat suits, but like the really thin paper ones,
Yes.
Get that, put the logo on the back of that, get like bright red aprons, the latex aprons, and put the logo real big right in the center in white.
I'm sure the Sheraton loved that.
Oh, yeah, that's the point. We had the hat. We had the logo on the hat with the visor and everything, gloves, the whole nine.
I almost feel like it would have been as funny or funnier to dress as Legionnaires.
There were Legionnaires there.
Excellent.
But we did the Biohazard cleanup crew, and we went through and got the badges. And now I tend to I'm a nice guy some of the time, and I will pick up badges for other people, right? You can have somebody else pick up your badge for you, because like they're only open like for certain hours. And if you want to be there Thursday night and you're getting in late on Thursday, you don't have time to get in your badge, okay, or you don't want to wait in line at all, you can go up and pick up like 20 badges in the same time it takes to pick up one and not wait for an hour and a half in line in the Atlanta heat. So anyway, I picked up like 20 badges. Everybody else is picking up like one badge. Get out of there. When I leave, which is a few minutes after everybody else, there's nobody else. I don't see my group anywhere. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go get a glass of water and, tie my shoe, do a few things. And I notice this one guy in a suit there, red in the face. I mean, there was almost literal smoke coming out of his head. I could see it in a cartoon fashion. And he was like, oh my God, what can we do? How do we do it? And it was the general manager of the show, who was not happy that people were in biohazard related costumes.
Yeah, I would think so.
Now, to just step back for a second in this story, I always make a giveaway for all of my costumes. This particular one was came in handy a few years later during the pandemic. Was little bottles, credit card size bottles of hand sanitizer that, of course, were branded in red with the Sheraton Biohazard logo on them. So I see this going on. I see him yelling to somebody, maybe, I don't know if it was a legal person or somebody in his whatever. What could I do? How do I, whatever. So I go over there and offer him a, he was not interested in but somebody else right next to him was. So I gave out like 3 or 4 to other people right in front of him. Exited the hotel. And my group was there, and they're like, "Oh my God, we were thinking you were getting arrested. We were trying to find out if anybody was a lawyer and see what we could do and whatever." I was like, we go back to the Marriott. The Marriott loves it. They all want to pose with us and take pictures, all the staff and everything. And we'll see what happens this year when I'm wearing something with the Marriott logo. And see how they feel about it. They're going to love it. They always do. But yeah, no, it's always a good time. And badge pickup costume is certainly one of the highlights of the event for me in particular. It just like starts off the whole thing on a good note, on an interesting note, and that sort of brings us to our topic today. Starting off your adventure, your campaign, your session, if it's just a one shot, on a positive note for everybody, and things you can do in terms of a session 0 or a mock session 0 to sort of get everybody started on the right foot. Are there things you guys like to see in your session zeros or ways you like to communicate ahead of time, so you guys can hit the ground running in your sessions?
Well, yes.
I'm glad you said something, because it was going to be a long, awkward silence.
Well, I was waiting. I thought Rick was going to respond.
So I played in a one-shot on Friday, and the gimmick, if you will, for my character was that their tongue had been cut out and they could not speak. And we kind of, we didn't have a proper session zero, right? But there was some back and forth, some people, what are you going to play? Blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. And I made mention of the fact in that message string or chain that I was going to be playing someone that didn't speak. And they were immediately thinking, well, what can we play? How can we get a message spell to make that happen for you? All of these things. I'm like, no, it's really all right. I'm fairly happy with just communicating with charades. No one responded to that. Yeah, somebody said, okay, great, whatever. But no one really responded. We get into the game, and somebody has decided to play a rogue with the soul knife subclass, and immediately connected us all up, linked us all up, mind linked us all to speak to one another. And so the first thing I had to do was think of, what's my voice going to be? Because I don't even know. Right? I had no idea, never even thought to think about what it would sound like. But more importantly, it just kind of took all of the wind out of the gimmick for my character's sails. And I could have said something about it or just still not spoken and not done that thing. But at the end of the day, that would have been taking away that player's agency for his character as well. So I just rolled with it and, wasn't really happy about it, to be honest. Kind of annoyed about it, but it is what it is. And it's not that big a deal. It's a one shot, not a big deal. We move on. However, that's why session zeros are so important, to put some of those things in place.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Especially this was a one shot. It's a little more difficult and not a full developed. Hey, session zero. Let's talk about what we want to be. Let's talk about what our arcs want to be, because it's a one shot. You're probably not going to have much of an arc for an individual character in a one shot. But yeah, if there's something important to you and you want to do something that's central to the character, I think it's important to say it, and it's important to listen to what other people are saying, what they want their characters to be and do. And more importantly, trying to identify if there's going to be a push-pull thing and try and figure out how can we get this to work together, and as players and as a DM, right? As a DM, even if it's a pay-for-play game, hey, I'm just showing up and, I'm going to run this session, and whatever little prep work we got to do ahead of time, just a little back and forth, great. But most of what's going to happen, we're just going to run the story or there. I think it's important to read through those comments and try and identify if there's any pressure points between the characters.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think when people talk about their characters in a session zero or just more informal discussion, if you're in a Discord server or something like that prior to the game, which I think is really good, in addition to having a more formal session zero, is to just have a space where people can just kind of chat prior to the game. I think is good, just to get a feel for everyone and that sort of thing. But, people will talk about, what are you playing, which we've talked about before, and just the mechanics of okay, who's filling what kind of role, or, how do you do this? But something that I feel like doesn't get addressed a lot, that maybe is more important taking this as an example is like, what do you actually care about your character? Like, what are you excited about your character? Like, what about that character? Like, why do you want to play this? Why is this interesting to you? And don't fucking step on that thing like for that person. Like, once you can see, and sometimes you can kind of just intuit that based on general conversation, but not always. So it maybe is good to have that be an explicit conversation. It's like, what are you excited about with this character? Why do you like it? What are you looking forward to playing them? And when someone expresses that, yeah, like make sure other players and the DM as well, make sure you give them room to do that thing that they're excited to do.
Indeed.
For sure. And we were talking about, Rook and I were talking about this character conceptually before the game. I was not playing in this particular, at this particular table, but we were talking about this. And the first thing that I was like, hey, how are you going to communicate? Are you going to be taking psionic stuff? Are you going to be talking in your mind? So I think it's a very natural thing with so much psionics in the game right now, with so many mental communication abilities. I think that's my natural mental leap. I think other players would make that mental leap as well. So I could see another player doing that. Oh, well, I'm going to help this character out. But you also have to think at the same point in time, well, they're giving themselves this condition.
Yeah. You could have just chosen to not do that. Like, if you didn't want to do that.
Exactly.
Like, you could have chosen
to do what I chose to do.
Yeah. Right? You could have not played a character that couldn't speak, or if you wanted to have that just as like a more minor feature, you could have taken a psionic ability yourself. You could have taken a telepathy feat or something like that, so that you would have another way. But if you're not doing that, clearly it's not something you want your character to do. Like, don't try to fix someone else's character for them, I guess, is probably the advice there.
Indeed.
Sure. That is the specific. Another thing, there's probably like a ring of mind shielding or something like that, ways to shield your mind, but you shouldn't have to do that. But there are probably ways to try and prevent that. But yeah, I think just talking and listening would have prevented this problem. But what are some other things you guys like to do, even in a longer term campaign in that session 0? What do you like to bring into it? What do you like to try and get out of it?
Well, I think with session 0s, there's really two different kinds of, there's two different things that need to be discussed. And sometimes I think the way where people go astray is talking about one and not the other. And that's like sort of the in-game stuff and out-of-game stuff. So, you want to talk about out-of-game, obviously safety stuff. You want to talk, like we always have lines and veils that we, do with all of our one-shot cast members. And so we've had that. We make sure everyone fills those forms out, and we take care of those for each session. But like in general, different kinds of safety issues. You want to talk about house rules, that the DM likes to use, things like that. Like, you want to talk about out of game stuff that is relevant, so everyone knows what they're getting into when they start. But then also, in-game stuff, talking about the world and the tone of the sort of vibe of the campaign. So you don't have one person who's super gritty serious and another person who's super goofy, unless people are cool with that. Unless that's what you want. Like, that's fine to have a super mismatched group that's like, that can be fun, but like, make sure everyone knows what is it we're doing. Like, what kind of a game is this? So I think there are different things to discuss. And I think too often people will only discuss one or the other of those things. They'll either just talk about like in-game, like, okay, session 0, here's where your characters are going to start. Do you know each other or not? Like that kind of stuff. Or they'll talk about, house rules, safety, etc., and don't always cover both.
Yeah, I think I don't want to say alignment or use the word alignment and start a whole nother debate about whether alignment exists. But I do think that some sort of general party attitude is important to know, right? Like,
yes, I agree.
Are we going to be the heroes or are we not? because I think that ultimately can lead to a whole lot of clashing if we don't know. And I think it's okay for certain party members, especially experienced role players, to live on the edges or the fringes of the general group alignment. But I do think that that's something that's super important in a longer campaign to discuss.
Yes, I have learned that the hard way. A campaign that I ran that I think I took for granted that everyone meant the same thing when we were talking about different kinds of alignments, and we sure didn't. Once we got into it, we absolutely did not, and a lot of people had really different feelings about how some people were playing their characters, and it caused a lot of conflict. And what is a neutral alignment? People can have really different opinions about that. So if someone's trying to come into your campaign and wants to play a neutral or whatever particular alignment character, make sure you have a clear conversation about what that means and make sure everyone's on board for that.
Yeah,
because they weren't in this game. It was rough.
I am sure a happy hour coming at a time to be named later will be discussions on alignments and what that word means, what they mean, and how different people can interpret them. Because there's such a spectrum of which you can be. What do these words mean to you? And just saying, hey, I'm going to play XYZ alignment. It means something to one person.
Anything, really.
It means something, 90 degrees different to you.
So subjective.
It doesn't. It means a lot less than who the character is and describing, more about that character. But to the previous point, I think you're exactly right, Violet, when you say in a session 0, you need to address the crunchy stuff. Here's our rules. These are the optional rules that we use. These are the ones we don't. I'll consider anything if you bring it up, but here are the things that I lean toward against in my DM style. I think it's really important to go over those as much as you can, because that clears up gameplay later on. Like when we sit down in one shots, when I approach a new table that I haven't done with before, I come with a sheet and I have my questions printed out. Are potions an action or a bonus action? Are we flanking or not flanking? How do all of these rules and I'll ask these questions even if I'm playing a character that is never going to be in combat or hopes never to be using flanking ever. But I think they're important to get done. Okay, we've checked them off, we're done. Now we can start and play the session and not have to interrupt role play or make combat take longer to go over things. What are we? Are we rolling digital dice? And what happens if we are supposed to make perception, but we hit persuasion instead? Do you want to re-roll? Do you want to do the math? Whatever it is, just let's decide in advance so that we can play the game and not have to worry about rule interpretations and rule breaks. So I think that section is very important and should be thought about and written out so you can go through those things and have a record of it later on. And then the exciting part that for me and for a lot of people, like I play with a lot of new DMs and they want to take a session 0 and go, okay, so here is my world. And you can get 30 minutes of talk about this world. Okay, now that you have a concept of my world, I mean, and I think it's important too, right? I mean, we could, I mean, there may be a 0 and a 0.5 and whatever, where, hey, here's the concept of the world. Here's the things I have going on in the world. And it's a really open world. So you can choose starting points. Maybe you want to choose a character that is aligned with some of the factions that already exist in this world, and you want to embed your character in that world, and it'll help you decide who you want to play. Maybe you already have a character that you're excited about playing with a personality and everything like that, and you got to figure out where it fits in. You got to decide where you want to start your adventure. Did you know each other? Did you not know each other? All of that stuff I think is very important. And there are times when characters will develop. You hear somebody else talking about, hey, here's my character concept. This is sort of what I have. Oh, well, I got something. How about if that story led to this and right? There can be an excitement there, but I think the important thing is to listen to what the other people are saying or not saying if they happen not to have a tongue. So I think, and it doesn't matter whether that's a formal session 0 for a campaign that you intend to run for 3-5 years, or a one shot, right?
It's a lot harder to do for a one shot, especially if you're doing it online, like trying to get it through Roll20 or start playing games or wherever you find your particular brand of online gaming experience. And it's equally tough, I think, to find the right group if you're trying to find a game on Roll20 and a longer campaign. It's really tough to find exactly what you're looking for out there.
Which is another good reason to do a session 0, or even just the informal step of just having a space where people can chat prior to the game starting. I have definitely dropped games before they started because I was in a space like that and just realized this is not a group. This is not the group for me. This is not a good fit. Like, they all seem cool with what they want to do, but that's not the kind of game I want to play. Sorry, guys. Have fun. Bye. And it's so much better to be able to do that right up front than to get like entrenched in a game and then try to be like, sorry, I have to leave, and then it fucks with their campaign because now a major character's gone, and it's nice to be able to figure out up front, is this going to be a good fit? And you can't know for sure until you really start playing, but you can get a sense.
Now, that brings up this sort of segue into another thought or another topic or tangent that we could go on for a little bit here, which is trying to think about playing, hey, I want to be in a long-term campaign, but I don't have a group already. Maybe there's one of us, maybe I'm the only one, maybe there are a couple of us, whatever. And this listing seems interesting for a long-term campaign, and session 0 is next week. Should let's sign up and pop in and see what we got, right? I think that's the standard way things are going, and that's what a lot of DMs, especially in this online DMing space that we find ourselves in quite a bit these days. However, I would say it could be interesting as well. I know when I met the DM on this channel, or main DM, we'll call it Jacob. I was offering me one shots. I'm like, hey, this guy sounds interesting. I got a time slot. Go, let me play. And hey, that was good. Let me do another one. Okay, great. Now you play 4 or 5. You start developing a rapport with the DM, maybe with 1 or 2 other people that do recurring stuff in here. And then it's like, hey, I'm going to be offering up some campaigns coming up. Is anybody interested in those campaigns? And you've already got a feel for what the DM is like. You already got a feel for a couple other people at the table. And you're like, yeah, this is something that I could see doing a campaign for a couple of years. Does it make sense, if that's what you're looking for, a campaign for a couple of years, does it make sense to try and do one shots and shorter things to get your feet wet and try and build up a rapport before you jump into whole hog with what you really want to do?
That's a tough question.
That's a difficult.
That's our first old man sigh of the night.
Sorry. I'll try to throw some more in. No, I think that we definitely could do that. I think that's a good way to make sure that all the people gel. But at the same time, I think that changing the format of how things typically are advertised and go in these Roll20 forums or the join forums, Reddit forums for joining, all of that stuff. I think moving that needle away from the tried and true is probably going to be a difficult thing to do. I also think that the challenge with I
feel like it's a drinking game at this point in time.
There you go. The challenge with doing that is then everybody again has to come up with several different characters to play in these one shots and things like that. And maybe they used their idea that they really wanted for the campaign for the first one, and now they can't. They feel like they needed something different for the other. You know, it's a it's a double-edged sword, if you will.
Yeah, I think it can be helpful to get some experience to see what people's play styles are like, but it is very much not foolproof. One shots are real different from a campaign, so you definitely could do that and still get into the campaign and be like, oh, actually, maybe this isn't for me. So I don't think it necessarily it can help, but I don't think it necessarily like eradicates the problem. I have had situations where, okay, so there was this game that I played where they basically did like an audition phase where it was like a short like series of adventures. It was like a little prequel to the campaign that they had a bunch of people play, and then they chose the players that were sort of worked out the best, that felt like the best fit, to then go on to the campaign. And the little prequel adventure thing was a blast. It was so much fun. It was really great. I loved it. I got chosen to move on to the campaign, and the campaign was garbage. It was like horrible. And like it was like super, super railroaded, and like it was very, very clear the DM had a specific story that they just wanted to walk everyone through, and they were playing a DM PC that was like super main character, and like it was not good at all. So like in theory, like it seemed like a really good idea at the time, and then it just totally like, oh well, we'll play this thing in advance, we'll already have like the characters in place and they'll know each other. When we get into the real game, it'll be great. We have like this little backstory, but it just did not work. Like there were still some serious problems that were not revealed in the short play before.
For sure, nothing is foolproof. And I'm not advocating, hey, this is a foolproof way. I would be interested if you think that experience ended up being a failure because of the change in the DM and the play style in the game and all that. And if it could have been a good experience had it continued the way in the previous play style, right?
Well, I think the thing was that because a short adventure or one shot is very different from a campaign, and the DM just had really particular ideas about what they wanted the campaign to be that didn't necessarily apply to the shorter adventure they were running first. So there was a lot more player freedom and stuff in the shorter adventure because they didn't really care as much about that. It was just a little thing to kind of weed out the group. And then once we got into the larger campaign, that was when we learned like, oh, this person has really specific ideas about what they want this campaign to be. So, I mean, I think there was no way that campaign was going to be better. I think it was just the short adventure was a little misleading because it was so different from what the main game was.
I know other people that have been in these audition type things and whatever, and it just sounds like a bad idea to me. Look, we talked. I said I was interested in your game. You either want me or you don't want me. I'm not auditioning. I feel like the actor who's like, no, man, I don't audition. You want me? Yeah, you sign me for the part, whatever. I mean, there was one. There was somebody else, a friend, a guy I was playing with in another campaign, was like, yeah, I'm trying to get into this thing, and we had this audition thing, but everybody couldn't make the time. And now instead of playing D&D, we're going to get together and play Jackbox games, and that's how they're going to try and select the people that are getting it. Who auditions?
It's a bit much, yeah.
Who auditions for who auditions to be in a private home game? These are not like there's not streams, there's not anything like that. It's a private home game that you're paying to be part of, and you have to audition to get the honor to be selected to be paying to play in this game. I can understand, and I can understand wanting to screen people, right? I mean, I am all for screening people, especially if a gay table is already started, or you have like part of a table and you're just trying to add one more person to see if they were going to gel, to get the type of feel for are they going to gel with the DM, even no less the rest of the table. But auditioning for just open auditions for a game, just don't. That doesn't. I don't know. Not my style.
Yeah.
To say, hey, no, you weren't good enough. Try again a little later. Work on your workshop a little bit, and then come back and see me when you got a little more practice. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not down for that sort of thing. But I do think that there is an opportunity to not just to do more than a session 0, to make sure the table is going to gel, to make sure the people are going to work together. And if it's a good DM, they could talk to somebody and know, okay, yeah, this guy, this girl, this whomever, they're great. We have great chemistry. I think they'll mesh really well. As a friends, hey, this person is gonna. My friends are gonna hate this person. My friends are gonna like this person. Introducing a new person into that, already, so you can tell. You should be able to tell ahead of time.
I think 10 Candles could be a very good opportunity for that, right? Like it's
10 Candles.
It tells you an awful lot about people. Let's put it that way.
Because it's so free form, people can do a lot of different kinds of things with it. And so, yeah, I think maybe you can see some tendencies there. But yeah, I think the point of the GM's role, I think, is really important in like selecting players that will be compatible. Obviously doesn't entirely fall on them. They're not omniscient. They can't they don't know every single player super well, obviously, but if they kind of just sort of gut check each player and just sort of like, this person feels like someone I want to play with, and that then becomes the measure for each player. Like basically, if your DM as a person sort of vibes with each of the players, they probably will vibe with each other, like, so I think there is some responsibility on the DM to be thoughtful about that. And like, does this feel like, as you're choosing players, does this feel like someone who's a good fit for the group I have so far, or for the game I have in mind, or whatever. But it's not, like we said, nothing's foolproof. You can do all these things to try to improve the outcome of your game, make sure everyone, is on board for the same kind of thing and is communicating well, but it's never going to completely prevent, potential problems. But
which leads us to, you're running a campaign, and you're, I don't know, 8 months into the campaign, and somebody has to leave for whatever reason, and you need to replace them and bring somebody into a group that has been going for some time. They have done some stuff, whether it's 8 months, a year, 2 years, or you could have been together for a while. Is there a different sort of session 0 that you have when you bring a new person into an existing group, or do you think, hey, well, we just talk a little bit and then throw them right in? In other words, should you take a session and say, hey, we're supposed to play this week, but I'm not going to charge you this week. We're just going to do a session 0 where you can meet the new guy. We could talk about some of the things that have been going on in the campaign or whatever, and we'll get back to playing next week? Or do you just bring them in? And
I don't think I would do that. I think, first of all, as we've sat here and discussed this, I started thinking about what would I do if I were running a game in the future, and bringing a group of people together that I didn't know at all and had no idea whether they were going to work well together. I think I would aim for there to be easy drop in and out spots every couple of sessions. Like maybe I wouldn't run them right out into the wilderness where they're going to be in the middle of the desert for the next 3 months of gaming, right? I would tell a short story to bring the group together. And then that way I know 2 to 3 sessions in, if this guy's not gelling with the rest of the group, kick them off the island. Or if somebody decides that they want to leave, they don't have to feel bad about crashing the party, ruining the whole experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, and having in mind, like, to the same point, onboarding points where it would make sense for someone else to join up with the group.
Yeah, I mean, I think a good DM can work in and create scenarios and make it interesting, and not just, oh no, they disappeared in the middle of the night, don't worry about them, they just cleaned their bunk and they're gone, right? You can make reasons that they left. You can make reasons to introduce to smoothly introduce a new character.
You can do all of those things, but by establishing up front, hey, I'm going to have these things, even if you're not gelling with the group, stick it out for the first 3 sessions, make sure that that's what you think, and we'll definitely be able to, you'll be able to leave then or something like that. I think that's easier. To answer your question about somebody jumping into the middle of a campaign, the very first question I'm going to ask as a DM is, hey, do you want to join this level 9 campaign because you want to play this great weapon master, polearm master, sentinel thing that you can concoct at this higher level? Because if you do, this is probably not the group for you. But the other thing would be, rather than going about it like that, I think that a short 30 minutes, hey, let's all chat and talk about our lives or whatever. I think somebody, was it Friday that mentioned they do that all the time? Mm-hmm. Or was it who was it that one of our guests mentioned?
No, that's Friday's table.
Yeah, so I would probably do that and then ask them to listen in on the session. They don't have to. I wouldn't ask them to stay the whole time. Asking somebody to listen in and not play or interact with, because you don't want them to kibitz and take away from the game, right? But I think having a new person listen for an hour or so and make sure that the vibe and the table is right for them is an important thing.
Yeah. Another thing, when I have had to do this before as a DM, is I always, before I invite someone into the game, discuss it with the existing players. Be like, hey, I'm thinking about inviting this person. This is what I know about them. What do you all think? Like, if it's something on Roll20 where people will like write a little, respond to the application, write a little thing, I'll share the link with the players. Be like, this is this person's application. I'm thinking about inviting them. What do you think? And I'll put it to the group to discuss, so everyone can kind of weigh in. Because I think once you already have an established group, that makes sense. Everyone should have some say in it, or at least even just to be informed about what's going on. And then again, I think this is why it is really useful to have like some common space where people can chat and socialize, so that you could do like a set like session where it's like, hey, let's all meet and chat. But also, if they're just, okay, I'm going to invite you into the Discord, and then they're hanging out on the Discord for maybe a week or so before the first session, everyone has a chance to chat a little bit there, ask questions of each other. Maybe the other players can catch them up on some things that have been going on in the campaign, and you can kind of get a vibe. So I think having a shared social space is really important for a lot of different reasons, and this is one of them. If you're bringing in someone new to the group, it provides opportunities for people to kind of just get a feel for each other.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think some sort of Discord, some sort of shared space is 100% necessary for even a home table, for even an in-person table, where you meet in person every week, but have someplace, a message board or something where you can chat and socialize and do it. I think that's very important. I think I still lean toward the fact that I would take a break for a week and, or a session or whatever. Hey, we got a new person interested in joining. We're just going to take a break this session, and it's going to be a social. Maybe you do a quick little role play thing if you want, but going over your session 0 again and reminding yourselves, the existing players, and the new person what all the house rules are and what all the stuff is, it doesn't hurt. Going back and checking in, maybe you've been playing together 8 months, a year, or whatever it is. I think regardless of whether there's a new player introduced or not, it's a good idea to go back as a DM and check lines and veils. Has something come up in that person's life in the last 6 months? Maybe somebody in the family or a loved one got diagnosed with cancer. Maybe something happened, whatever may have changed in your lives that may change where you fall on wanting to see certain things in the games. Doing check-ins, I think, is important, and using that, and that's an opportunity when introducing a new person to do some of those check-ins and reintroduce stuff, as well as just, hey, have a good social time. Because for a lot of people, there is pressure coming into a campaign in a group that's been together for months or years and has an intimacy already, and you're the new person in the social group. Now, some people are like, just jump in both feet. This is the crazy ass character I'm playing, and whatever. I'm going to be, in your face, introducing everybody, shaking everybody's hand, kissing babies, doing whatever it takes, and introducing yourself. But some people are much more nervous and I don't want to do the wrong thing, view it from a different perspective or whatever. And having some sort of social basis to interact with first, to get to know the players, and that face to face, just having drinks, talking, sitting around talking about things they want to see in a session 0, whatever you could be doing. I think you're bonding a little bit, and I think it'll make it easier. And to Rook's point, yeah, if you have an entry points and exit points built in to your campaign, sure, yeah, well, you want to join the campaign, we'd love to have you. It'll be, this session is probably not the great one, but we'll do a session, have like a session 0 to onboard you, and then we'll bring you into here. So it's going to be a couple weeks. Now, the downside to doing that, if it's a paid game, if you're a paid DM, you want to get them in there, and there's a chance that in those 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is, they're well, I found something else to do that night or whatever it is, and now
and then you got to start over with someone else, and it sets you back another couple of weeks, and
right. Finding somebody that's interested, you generally want to get them in and get them started playing right away, even if it's not the perfect place in your campaign setting, just because
the break points are really more dump off spots than bringing people. Like you said, you can pretty much bring someone in almost all the time, right? But exit points is probably where you would want to have them.
Only Rook builds his campaign with places set to dump the bodies already.
That's right.
Drop off points. This is making me think of, this is like
vote this fucker off the island.
Slightly off topic, but slightly
bicycle
related.
Guy coming along pretty soon. Just toss the body in the back.
Throw him on the bike trailer and just send him off. So this is something I've been wanting to talk about because I think it's really interesting, and it's somewhat related. Which is a mechanic that a friend of mine uses that I play in some short adventures with him. And he's been using it forever in like his homebrew setting. And it's a way that you could deal with players, new players coming in, and that has happened while I've been playing with him, or players leaving, or just someone missing a session. And it's this mechanic he calls soul stoning. And basically what it is, it's like a phenomenon in this homebrew world that occurs where sometimes a person just disappears and there's a stone left in their place. So that's how you know that they soul stoned. They reappear at some point in the future, unpredictable when. They don't always reappear in the same place. They don't have any memory of what happened while they were gone. It's just a mysterious phenomenon that exists in this world. It can happen to anyone. It tends to happen more often to people who live sort of dangerous, risky lifestyles. So adventurers tend to soul stone fairly often. And so it's just like this thing in the world. Like, people don't really know why it happens, but it's just like a thing that happens. It's like a natural phenomenon. But it's so convenient. Like, if someone misses a session, you just, oh, whoops, they soul stoned. Like, okay. And then when they come back, it's like, oh, great, you soul stoned back in. And then you can, in character in the game, fill them in on what happened, what they missed. So you don't have to do that out of the game. You don't have to do this awkward, like, pretend they're there but just silent or whatever. But recently, we have had a couple of new people join the games that I play with this particular DM. And yeah, we just had it. These were people who just soul stoned it. Like, we were way out in the middle of nowhere, like traveling, and yeah, they just happened to soul stone in. Like, they soul stoned almost a year ago and just got back, and they're like, oh shit, where am I, what's happening? We're like, hey, you can travel with us if you want, like, we're kind of nowhere right now.
They were super soul stoned.
Yeah.
But
it's
we had a similar
it's very
thing.
convenient.
We had a similar thing. Like, you miss a session and you become like an indestructible marble for that session, and somebody just puts you in the pocket and you walk around. You come back the next session and you have to be filled in with what with what happened. It's better because the other option, and this is probably another topic at some point in the future, is what do you do for somebody that misses a session, right? Do you pilot them? Does somebody else run that character? Does the DM run that character?
It's so difficult.
It's messy. It's super, super messy. But yeah, they
and that's the main reason I like the Soul Stone. But it is also useful for, you know, people leaving the campaign or bringing a new player in. It's always like, you don't have to bring them in that way, but you can always bring someone in that way, no matter what, no matter where you are, what's going on.
Well, I think that's a fantastic idea, and I think we're at a good point where we can do one more thing, just one more thing before we sign off for the evening, for the week.
Just one more thing.
Just one more thing.
I was just watching Columbo earlier today. I love Columbo so much.
He is fantastic. Peter Falk, one of my all-time favorites.
Amazing.
Somebody we forgot to say who was drinking on the house this week. And it's fine. You will drink all week on the house. Don't worry. Just because we are going to sign off doesn't mean you don't get your drinks. The phenomenon of people that just say things and don't mean them anymore is amazing to me. Like, there are people that, you know, how you doing, and you're just supposed to say I'm doing great, even though you are doing completely shitty. You're just supposed to say, hey, I'm doing fine, right? The same thing goes with, like, saying thank you. It's just like, yeah, thank you, yeah, thank you, yeah, thank you. It just gets said all the time. But then there are some people that actually look you in the eye and then mean it when they're like, thank you. Thank you for bringing my food from the restaurant all the way to my house because I was super fucking lazy. Thank you for holding the door open as I'm coming through. Those simple things. You just look at somebody, you say thank you, you mean it, you embrace humanity, and you let other people know that I value other people being on this planet. I don't treat everyone the way I do when I'm stuck in traffic and somebody cuts me off. You know, the perfect example is the person who does the genuine wave of thank you when you stop your car and let them in traffic, despite the 20 people behind you honking at you. And, you know, why did you let that guy in, jackass? You know, none of that. Just say thank you.
You want to know the best part of everything you just said, Chuck?
It was all during a commercial.
It was almost every single bit of it. I don't know why, because we had 3 minutes left, and then all of a sudden it just went to ads anyway, and it didn't ever ask me to snooze it or anything else. But people watching on the VOD,
they got it.
They got it. Yeah, it'll be fine.
Okay,
it'll be good. Anyway, so people who say thank you and mean it, you drink on the house this week. And,
yeah, absolutely.
And with that, we would like to say good night. Thank you for tuning in and listening to us ramble. And remember, hit points are not required to enjoy a tasty beverage.